What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another very important AMC update to bring all of you this afternoon. So what we're going to be covering in this update is a little bit of the Ortex short interest and utilization data, specifically talking again about that utilization and cost to borrow relationship, and if the data that we are seeing on Ortex right now is even remotely accurate. Then we're going to move into a little bit of a conversation about the options chain and max pain going into AMC for this next trading week. But the most important concept that I want to discuss in this update is the potential for at least 240 million naked shorts to be kind of floating around in the market for AMC at the current time. Now, I kind of got the idea for this video from True Demon's video about MULN. I think Trey talked about it as well. So I decided to apply some of these things to AMC and kind of give you my thoughts on kind of where we are right now and just show you guys the bigger picture of what essentially the securities lending market and the shorting market is looking like for AMC. And we're also going to briefly touch upon GameStop as well, because these short exempt sales are pretty significant. So before we get into all of that information, if you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provide for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And again, guys, 1348, very solid trading strategy. You saw the Occidental Petroleum plays. You saw the Micron plays this week, all multi-100% gains. If you guys do want kind of a little test run and put the training wheels onto that strategy, we are offering free alerts on the 3-minute time frame right now on about 5 stocks. And that Discord is linked down below in the description. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you guys give it a look. So AMC closed the day on Friday at $16.57, down about 8.25%. Honestly and obviously, that's not what we want to see, especially after AMC's earnings. But with the overall kind of global macroeconomic environment, we are still kind of in that uncertainty phase. Remember, the last earnings for AMC were pretty good, but we were kind of in that time period where that new variant was coming around, and then we ended up selling off with the market. Once the market ends up chilling out, and we start to see some of these better technical indicators kind of come to fruition, we start to see those 1348 crosses, those really solid 1348 crosses on the 4-hour time frame. We cross above that 200 EMA with some momentum. Then we can start to get back going to the upside. So let's come over and take a look at some of the Ortex data that we're seeing here. I do have the FTD data over here, and that's going to be very important later. So 100% utilization supposedly, but the cost to borrow really isn't moving a whole lot. It's at 1.34% average as of yesterday. There was a net borrow of about 440,000 shares. We're still sitting at 20.91% estimated short interest, 107.7 million shares sold short according to Ortex's estimates right now. So guys, the shorts have not covered their positions. But there's an interesting thing we have to look at here. The shares on loan right now is about 126 million. The difference between the shares on loan and the shares that have actually been sold short is pretty significant. It's almost 20 million shares. It's about 19 million shares. That means they do have a lot of firepower behind the scenes to kind of try and push this thing down if they want to over the next couple of weeks. And it's really going to be up to the apes to say, nope, we don't want to let you push the price down. We're going to step up and kind of counteract that selling pressure. Now, coming over to this page right here, we've got a max pain going into next week of $18.50. Now, this number is going to change as we start to see more options being bought on a week-to-week basis. And again, guys, be careful buying those weekly options. A lot of the time, these out-of-the-money options are expiring worthless. So I would just suggest just be careful with what you're trading over here and kind of think about what effect the purchase you are making in the options market for AMC is going to have on the market maker and the underlying share price of the stock. So now we have to get into some of the more important things of this video, the short exempts, the short exempt volume, and the naked shorting situation. So we first have to kind of define what short exempt is. So it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's short exempt. So when you see a lot of this short exempt volume come up, it's not really going to be reported in these short interest reports. So whenever you see short exempt volume, it's not going to show up on these FINRA and S&P Global reported short interest reports, but we are getting reports of what this actually is. Now, there's a couple of reasons in scenarios when the short exempt volume would be more than zero or even pick up significantly. So when we see here, short exempt refers to a short sale order that is is exempt from the price test of the Securities Exchange Commission's Reg Show. The current implementation of this regulation contains a modified version of the uptick rule. When you think about the uptick rule, that has to do with SSR, short sale restricted. Now, what the uptick rule essentially says is that if you are going to kind of get on that SSR, short sale restricted basically designation, you can't short the stock when it's going down. You can only short the stock when it's going up. So it kind of cuts in half the amount of time or points during the day that these institutions can short. But then comes in market makers whose sole job is to provide liquidity to markets. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but if the market maker's job is to provide liquidity to markets, and then they no longer have the liquidity to do so, and they have to use their legal abilities under Reg Show and a couple of these other regulations to naked short, they're not really providing that much liquidity. They're essentially manipulating the market so that we don't see the underlying effects of the buying pressure that we've been kind of expecting is happening on a day-to-day basis. And there's another thing that I want to touch on right here. It is important to note, this is what they say here, that naked short selling is not always evidence of intent to manipulate prices. Interesting. Under certain circumstances, a market maker may engage in naked short selling to stabilize the market. For example, assume that there is a sudden flurry of buy orders for a stock. Oh, we've seen that happen a couple of times. The market maker may judge the buying interest to be temporary and not justified by any real news about the company's prospects. So the institution that's supposed to be facilitating the buying and selling transactions now has a say in where the stock price is going to go on whatever their opinion is on that underlying asset. It may be the result of a questionable press release or a rumor in an internet chat room. The market maker may choose to sell short to avoid what, in its view, would be an unjustified run-up in the stock's price. Very, very interesting. Now, let's get into kind of the numbers here so we can kind of just get an understanding of how many of these there actually are out there circulating around that we're not seeing in some of these short interest reports. So first, shout out to this website here, Apparently Exempt. This is where I got a lot of this data from that we're going to go over right now. So when we come over to these Excel spreadsheets right here, we can see that this is going to be AMC. This data goes all the way back to 2020, and I've highlighted the short exempt volume right here. But when we scroll down a little bit further, what I have highlighted in blue here is kind of the days where we see those giant price movements to the upside. And look what happens with the short exempt volume. Right here, it's about 488,000 leading up. You see days of 59,000. Then you see 14 million or 22 million. You see these crazy high days of short exempt volume, and that's not showing up in any short interest reports. Then we come down a little bit further, and this is going to be June when we saw that next run up, and we saw the short exempt volume start to pick up leading up, and then it really shot up once we were in June. But how many of these short exempts have been created over the last couple of years? 241 million. Now, they do have to go out and buy these shares back in order to kind of not create failure to deliver positions in a true persistent naked short. So it's possible that a lot of these short exempt shares have kind of been taken care of. But we've also seen AMC get on the threshold list many times, meaning that there are persistent and high levels of failures to deliver. So it's very, very possible that a lot of these shares are still circulating out there and have not really been accounted for. Remember, we've seen these kind of T35 dates with the failures to delivers where they're supposed to come due, and nothing really happens to the stock price. So what we're kind of looking at here is, well, they're doing something with these failure to delivers, kind of shopping them around. There were a couple of theories the last time that we were on that threshold securities list that they kind of moved them over to a different broker, which resets the clock, which I think is a very, very possible thing that was happening. Then we take a look at GameStop over here. And again, this is about half of the flow of AMC that has been kind of short exempt. And then we come over to GameStop over here, and we scroll all the way down and kind of add up this short exempt column. And again, it's about half the float, 47 million shares over here. So the amount of volume of these short exempts, and here's the thing, you don't really have a good understanding of how many of these failure to delivers are really being taken care of. That's one of the things that we really need in order to make our markets more free and more fair. Look at this. The amount of failure to delivers is very, very high some days and weeks on AMC in the past. Now, how many of these failure to delivers have been taken care of? Well, there's not really a good way to tell. You can kind of see how many persistent failure to delivers there are, but we also know through the research that we have done there are many ways to kind of mask the taking care of these failure to delivers and kind of moving them around to different brokerages to make it look like they're closed out when in reality they actually are not. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of what we're looking at here with the overall short exempt volume and what is going on with AMC securities lending market. And when we take a look at this Ortex data here, this is kind of why I say I look at this as a bare baseline minimum of what could potentially be out there in the market, because there are so many different ways. And we didn't even talk about some of those in this video. We talked about short exempt and the actual shorting, but what about the derivatives market? What about swaps? What about all of these other ways that these institutions are creating that synthetic short interest? So that is going to wrap up this update on AMC. If you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.